This is the business meeting. It's June 10th, 2021. And again, if you don't have a seat, there's plenty of seats outside, but we don't want anybody standing around the perimeter. If you're here for citizen input, your name will be called to come to the podium to speak. Make sure that you filled out a form, and make sure that Mrs. Esplin over there gets it ahead of time. Also, during board meetings, please refrain from clapping, outbursts of any sorts, and if you're not able to comply with that request, I may have to ask you to leave the meeting. At this point in time, I will ask Mr. Meyer to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first order of business tonight is the adoption of the orders of the day. And I would also point out, before we begin, we have two board members that are joining us on Teams, Dr. Schiff and Mrs. Rosario. They're in Tampa tonight for the Florida School Board Association meeting, which begins first thing tomorrow morning, representing our district. Are there any items board members wish to move from consent to action? Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the orders of the day?
So moved. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Dr. Moore,
You're going to me for...
do you have any presentations?
I do not, well, I'm sorry. All right. Yeah, we do have presentations, and for that, I'll turn it over to our Public Information Officer, Ms. Kristen Maddox.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here again tonight. We just have a couple of brief presentations, but very important presentations. Our first presentation is a video that we put together. It's an end-of-the-year wrap-up, just so you can see some important events that happened throughout the year. was probably one of the longest videos my team has put together, but it takes a long video to wrap up a very long year, and that's only a fraction of the work that our district did under the circumstances that we were under. So I'm personally very proud. I know I speak for a lot of people who say that. Our next presentation, we have some teachers here who recently completed the ACP course, the Alternative Certification Program, and I'm going to ask Mr. Richard Meyer, Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction, to come up and complete the presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Maddox. And actually, I'm going to ask for some other people to come up here and help me complete the presentation, Dr. Colleen Lord and Ms. Terry Beckham. As you guys know, we have phenomenal teachers here in the school district of Indian River County, but unfortunately we cannot keep them forever. They do earn the right to retire. So we've got to keep getting new teachers in, and through our teacher program, we have some wonderful individuals who, while they didn't go to college to become teachers, they're teachers in their heart, and our staff works with them to help them make sure they complete all of their state required credentials so they can be full tilt teachers. And I'll tell you, I do want to recognize one person, Dr. Lord, you're pretty awesome, but Miss Terry Beckham, I can't tell you the number of times, like I've left these meetings at 8, 9, maybe later, I don't know. Obviously seen you up there pretty late sometimes. And she's still working with some of the individuals, and it's just a no-quit attitude. An army of one. Miss Terry Beckham has gotten so many teachers across the finish line. So thank you for what you do, Terry. And Dr. Lord, I'll let you come up here.
So we are delighted tonight to recognize teachers that have crossed the finish line. They didn't start in college thinking, I want to become a teacher. Some of us do when we're quite young, but they took a different career path. And they made the decision after a 4-year degree to say, you know what, I actually want to go into the classroom. I want to do something for the kids. They were blessed by our kids here in Indian River County, and I greatly appreciate the fact that in these 2 crazy years that we've had, the last 2 school years, that they hung in there. They've taken extra courses, they've taken exams, they've put together a portfolio, and they have proven themselves in the classroom to be doing the right thing by our students. And so tonight, we are very proud to recognize we have 21 completers for our state-approved alternative certification program. And so again, we have 21, which is a record number. We have for this current year, 17 that have just entered. But again, congratulations to all of our teachers. And the 2 people that work with them, and Terry Beckham is the primary person over our ACP program. And as Mr. Meyer said, she is here till 10 o'clock sometimes on the phone. She's gone to meet at restaurants, at homes, getting people across that finish line with the exams, and just providing that extra support. And as a new teacher in a classroom, sometimes you just need that ear. She's there all the time. And right next to her is Anitra Cummings, who also is our PD specialist. Both of them are PD specialists with the Department of Educator Quality, and they do a phenomenal job supporting all of our teachers. Again, our job in curriculum instruction is to help all teachers, and I just can't thank the 2 of them enough for what they've done for alternative certification teachers to get across the line, just like we saw in the video. It's been kind of an interesting year, so kudos to them, and again, thank you for being here, for choosing our county. And for people watching, hey, you may have a 4-year degree in biology, but we can put you in a classroom with our science kids who are excited to learn. So if you are interested, I'm giving a little commercial now. Please don't hesitate to contact us, because this is part of what we do here in Indian River County. It's part of the We Promise, that we support you, we have mentors for them, and we just want to make sure that we are successful. And again, congratulations. So I'm going to turn it over to Terry Beckham.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, school board members, Dr. Moore, Mr. Meyer, Dr. Lord. It truly is such a pleasure to work with these guys. Over the past several years, we have had many teachers come our way with varying skill levels, and they work tirelessly. So If you've ever been a first-year teacher, you know that into itself is a huge strain. But never mind completing hours of coursework, preparing for FTCE tests, and then, of course, being me, the nag that I am, and nudging them along, mentoring them, talking all the time, making sure that they're staying on track, because they only have 3 years to meet all of their requirements on their statement of eligibility. So if we could just go ahead and just give them all a quick round of applause, because I am so proud. This is like my class, so I'm very, 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 very proud. And I could stand up here and probably talk for quite some time about each one of these individuals, and then those that could not make it this evening. But what I'd like to go ahead and do is just let them have their moment in the sunshine. So without further ado, Jason Trumbull, come on up. Natira Williams.
I'm gonna go and get them.
Love you, girl. Oh, no, no, mine, no. Liliana Barrett. Alwyn Gaines. Leif Mieris. Jordan Neely, who was also my 4th grade student back in the day. And last but not least, for here tonight, we have Kelly Reno. We also have several others that could not be here this evening for one reason or another. So I'm going to call out some names, and if you could just hold your applause to the end. Valerie Gerard, Amy Russell, Pam Swartz, Amy Wheatley, Beth Broxma, Kevin Culp, Maritza Lahodik, Kimberly Lubin, Brian Mosbleck, Paula Robinson, Chelsea Steinhauer, Katie Surrett, Jeffrey White, and Brittany Young.
Nice going.
Teeny tiny little board.
You guys must be very precise.
Congratulations, guys. And that concludes our presentations for this evening.
All right. Congratulations all. It has been a challenging year, but everybody did a great job. Next item is citizen input. I will read the guidelines. Each statement made by a member of the public shall be limited to 3 minutes duration. Persons will be recognized in the order in which the requests were received. Persons may speak for up to 3 minutes at the beginning of a business meeting during citizens' input, as indicated on the order of business, and for up to 3 minutes to each action item agenda during the action agenda and each board member discussion item, as indicated on the order of business. Persons may only speak once about any given item. The time period may be extended by the presiding officer, and only the individual submitting a speaker's form is allowed to address the board. Time may not be yielded to other speakers. And I would just remind you that we want everyone to act in a civil, respectful manner, and please address your comments to the board, not to any one specific individual, per our policy. At this time, the first speaker of the evening is Angela Love.
Hello, all. Thank you, school board members, for your service, and Dr. Moore. I am 44, hence why I have these glasses. Born 1977. Born into a family that wore their racism like a badge. Grandfather wouldn't allow me to have any black friends. When I dated outside my race, my grandmother called me racial slurs. I've seen black friends denied bathroom keys that I was allowed to have. All sorts of blatant examples of individual racism. I've also learned about how racism causes inequalities that can persist for generations. Redlining, cause no access to mortgages, denying home ownership, and passing on generational wealth. Here at our school district in second grade, my white daughter playing on the playground with a black friend of hers, a little white boy came up and said, "Ooh, I don't like black people." Obviously, my daughter and her friend were stunned. And then that little boy punched her in the face. I reported it. I think he had, counseling. The point of all of this is that racism is alive and well in individuals, in institutions, in organizations. And it's very, very easy for white people to deny that racism exists or that it is causing any problems. But racism doesn't go away by ignoring it, by sticking our heads in the sand, by wishing it away. It goes away by us learning more about it, by us studying it, by us fighting against it. Will we fight against it? Will we create a more equitable and just future? Will we, in this room, be on the right side of history? I fear many in this room are not. Many in this room are on the same side as the KKK, the Nazis, and other white supremacists. Your descendants may be embarrassed by your comments here in this room tonight. By fighting against racism, against hatred, by working on equity so that all kids have the tools they need to succeed in our school district, no matter their shade of skin, and that should show in our statistics. No one is proposing critical race theory in our school books. That is a lie to get you guys to come out here. The new textbooks are simply wanting to include everyone in a fair way so that all of our children are reflected and considered. Let's be on the right side of history. Let's trust the experts here in Florida. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Love. The next speaker, Joseph Parr.
Good evening, board members. I want to tell you about two teachers that I had back in high school that really shaped how I see the world. My ninth grade geography teacher, Miss Emily Walton, and my dual enrollment IRSC U.S. history professor, Dr. Michelle Kerrigan. Now, just to add some context to what I'm about to say, I went to a private school that most of the time went with a history curriculum provided by the state. This curriculum left out a lot of history. I only really learned anything when I had teachers that went beyond the state curriculum. Miss Walton and Dr. Kerrigan were those teachers. So Miss Walton, and I should add right here that my class was one of her favorite classes that she ever taught. That is a flex I will do to the end of time. Taught about history and geography from multiple perspectives and understandings. There was this one day when she showed us a TED Talk by Chimamanda Adichie about the dangers of a single story. What she means by that is that the way that people, events, and cultures are perceived are affected by how stories about them are told. I remember when Miss Walton taught us about European imperialism in African countries, and she explicitly discussed racism because the context of racism is central when making sense as to why colonialism happened, why Belgium committed genocide in the Congo, why apartheid was created in South Africa. And to not talk about racism when discussing these topics, if they're even discussed, is a disservice to our students. And when I signed up for Dr. Kerrigan's course, I was mostly excited about finally learning the nuances of Cold War politics. Thought that was going to be the main thing I would remember from her class. Turns out that wasn't the case. The main thing I ended up taking away from that class is the extensive history of systemic racism in this country. We learned about how the slaughterhouse cases gave way to the Black Codes and Jim Crow. We learned about the Tulsa Race Massacre. We learned about redlining. Before Dr. Kerrigan's class, I knew that racism was systemic, but her class revealed the extent of how systemic it is. Ms. Walton and Dr. Kerrigan both understood that the standard curriculum did not properly teach history. I would say that I did not actually learn history until I had Ms. Walton and Dr. Kerrigan because they were courageous enough to talk about racism, to talk about sexism, imperialism, and systemic injustice. And I'm extremely lucky that I had a Ms. Walton and a Dr. Kerrigan, and I wish everyone had teachers as amazing and courageous as they were. But I'm afraid that if Governor DeSantis and Commissioner Corcoran have their way, students in our state, no matter the school district, may not ever be able to fully learn from teachers like them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parr. Next speaker is Christy Milado. Excuse me.
Good evening. So this evening I want to share a story. Most of you know I work in dependency. I had a child in the past couple years that was abused by her father in the worst way that you can imagine. She was violated for years before a call was made. The school made that call. Then a school worker, not one but two school workers, took that child into their personal home. And one of them ended up adopting her. These two people advocated for this child relentlessly, asking for more resources, asking for help for them so they could help the child. They tracked her education and got her caught up. And sometimes it bothered me because I had more than one case. But they never gave up on her. The child I saw in the beginning left me in tears day after day. I left a party of hers the other day, and that child's life has changed. She is running around freely being a child, something that she lost, but the people at her school gave it back to her. So when we are here and I hear political agendas, words like inclusive or diversity or code for teaching CRT, I cringe. Inclusive is all kids. Diversity is all walks of life. So when we talk about best interests of kids, it can't just be the children that are ours. It has to be every child. We have a community of kids just like the one I'm talking about. Schools are their safety. Schools are their safe space. We need to support our educators to ensure that every single child gets what they need to be successful. The school is a part of our village. Give the teachers and kids support so every child has an ending like the one I just talked about. Your child is not the only child in this school district, and we need our public schools, and we need our teachers and our board to feel supported by our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Barbara Jordan.
Good evening. My name is Barbara Jordan. I'm a taxpayer, and I vote for local elections. I'm neither a Democrat or a Republican, so that makes me pretty well neutral. But about a year ago, I heard Governor DeSantis make a statement regarding the Florida education system. We were going to focus on reading, writing, arithmetic, and civics. A couple months ago, I attended the school board meeting, and your Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction, Mr. Meyer, gave a lengthy presentation on how they came up with the HMH selection. And at the end of his presentation, several of you asked him questions. So obviously, he knew what was going on. It was his department, salary that pays $115,000 to $123,000 a year. But since that day, I've looked at some of the curriculum and who the authors were, and there's so many undertones in it. It's so far deviated from reading, writing, and arithmetic. That is plenty to keep the teachers busy. So I think you need to find another assistant superintendent of curriculum and instruction. We could save the taxpayers $115,000 to $123,000. This curriculum stinks. I didn't hear anybody from this board push back or want to talk about what they thought of the curriculum and how there was undertones, other than Ms. Terry. But the rest of it's just unbelievable. So that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Jordan. Next speaker is Sarah Hill.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Hill. I'm a resident of Indian River County, and I'm a retired teacher. I'm here to ask for a timeout for students and teachers, please. August 2021, the first day of school always creates a mixed bag of emotions. This year will be different, though, post-COVID. After a year or more of disruption and dramatic change in teaching, daily attendance and learning, students may show deficits and loss of knowledge and skills that will take longer and more thorough evaluations and assessments to complete. Teachers and administrators will be more stressed to give students the time to adjust, feel welcomed and safe, accurately assess the gaps and losses, and begin a COVID catch-up. I suggest the school board members do everything possible to support teachers and students during this adjustment period. This is not the right time for a curriculum change. In the English language arts for grades K to 5. By making such an impactful change, each of you as leaders in our school community will be expecting teachers to complete assessments, plan instruction, and provide support for students with materials they are not familiar with and have not reviewed. These expectations are difficult and very unfair. After this pause, I strongly suggest the HMH Into Reading Florida K-5 series not be considered for adoption. This series is driven by culturally responsive teaching methods, which is closely linked to critical race theory. It pushes a political agenda throughout its materials that is harmful and divisive to young, impressionable children. In this HMH series, some fourth grade stories include negative, exclusive, and one story, racist comments. The scope and sequence of learning to read and write is extended through grades K to 2. Basic skills should be presented early and in a continuous and skill-building manner. Focus on social emotional concepts instead of basic skills can lead children to be frustrated and discouraged in their ability and interest to read and write. If HMH series is adopted, parents will object to content in this series and expectations, and expectations that are not age appropriate. They will be looking to the school board for answers and concerns. Implementing new and unfamiliar materials, controversial content, and impact on academic progress does not set the stage for a successful year. I pray that each of you as school board members will think first of how you can best support Indian River County students. Thank you for your attention and time.
Thank you, Ms. Hill. Next speaker, Susan Meal.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. Mr. Meyer has been helping us with navigating through the process of selecting the curriculum, and one of the things I just wanted to mention is that I have found it difficult to navigate online to see the materials myself. I think I'm not surprised that maybe a lot of people don't do that and don't find out that there are objections and then have to relate them to a state statute and fill out a petition. He also shared with me a rubric that the people fill out who evaluate the packages. And I have to say that there are a lot of touchy-feely things in there to evaluate and not a lot about what Sarah just talked about, sequencing and skill development, et cetera. I think it seems to be designed to be interpreted in a number of ways that would elicit the outcome that one might want. One of you admitted in a letter to our team that you aren't experts in this field and that you would defer to other board members who are. That's very disturbing because I know for a fact when I voted for you, I didn't anticipate that you would turn to other board members who I feel don't have the same principled interests that I do. We have taken the time to do the homework, and I expect you to do that too. We cracked the book, so to speak, and we evaluated the materials, and what we found was outrageous. Another person, well, this same person said that they would defer to existing district staff. And another board member wrote that the existing curriculum you're using right now, or did up until the end of this school year, is so bad that I should be concerned about you taking a time out to find better curriculum. We shouldn't have this material because it's so bad it should not be taught another second in our schools. Now, based on the fact that that material was selected by probably some of the same people that are in this room tonight or are in the school district now, does not give me a lot of confidence about the process or the material that's been selected. We believe it's a time for a timeout because what we found in the HMA K through 5 curriculum, all with its discussion in kindergarten of social justice and police relationships, is just ridiculous. We've also found that the Tallahassee has its issues too, and we're working with Senator Mayfield to address those, because what we found is there's money and power there too long, and the deep state in education is making some of the shots, calling the shots, and we don't appreciate that. So we're asking for a timeout so that these so important reading and writing in kindergarten and first grade processes are addressed with the right curriculum, and we'll help you find it.
Thank you. The next speaker, Greg Maxwell.
Good evening, board members, and thank you for your time. My name is Greg Maxwell, and I come to you as a concerned citizen. I was a student of the Indian River County School District from grades 7 to 12. I'm here tonight to ask the school board to vote against adopting the critical race theory curriculum or any variations thereof. So what's wrong with critical race theory? To be brief, critical race theory is a hateful ideology, one that judges people based on the color of their skin and not on other factors such as content of character or personality. It only serves to widen the chasm between Americans and instill a racially charged narrative in our children. Are not all men created equal? According to critical race theory, we are not. Instead of peddling hateful rhetoric, we should ensure our children are prepared for the real world by teaching them skills such as financial literacy, vocational and trade opportunities, and a thorough understanding of what it means to be an American. Our unity as a nation is at stake if we are teaching our children at a young age to view each other through the lens of racism. Thank you for your time.
Please. Next speaker, Ryan Blade.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan Blade. I am the Vice President of the Indian River County Conservative Club. There's a couple items that I'm a bit concerned about. The critical race theory, I'm not really too favoring of this. I'm finding it could worsen the already tense racial divisions we have in our country right now. I've seen racism from not just white people, but from other ethnicities. It's not as well known. I'd like to remind everyone that we are all Americans. I want everyone to remember that. We cannot be divided, especially right now with the other problems we have going on in this world right now. That HRM curriculum, not a big fan of it. I know all the curriculums out there, no matter which one you pick, it's gonna have some sort of progressivism in it. I ask that you please go and pick the least damaging one. I'm not a fan of equity jobs either. As a local education expert, I've spoken with Dr. Karen Hiltz, really smart about this stuff. And you know, these equity jobs, they don't really do anything to actually bring equity or equality, anything like that. I know a lot of conservatives I have spoken with are against racism, and if there is any racism, we're more than happy to stand against that. I don't like racism. I have 4 cousins that are biracial. I don't like racism or anything like critical race theory that basically says, that you're less likely to succeed because of your skin color. I'm actually half Argentine, plus I'm descended from 2 Union Civil War veterans from Pennsylvania, so on both sides of my parents' families. So I got a bit of both worlds on that. And the masking and contact tracing, I know at some point you guys are supposed to take a vote for the fall. I think it'd be best that the contact tracing and masking and whatnot, all that's gone done. I've spoken to a couple of medical individuals, people who treat tuberculosis, been in the operating room. I've had, over 10 procedures myself, unfortunately, in my lifetime. The only mask that's really only works N95 masks, and you have to dispose them each time. And a lot of us, including myself, reuse these masks when we have to use them. So I don't know if it's going to create a lot of sanitation. It's not like, you're just going to put negative pressure and, letting us, having everybody gown up. I can't see that, everybody goes and does that. And also, too, at least one thing I did remember from my education at University College is there are federal laws that are supposed to protect against discrimination going back to the 1960s. I would hope that those are being properly enforced. We already have those in place. But yeah, I just don't want more division amongst everybody. And I know, too, I heard from Extra Princess Visual. I know this doesn't apply to everybody, but Governor DeSantis, which I support all of you, but this is well in the news that Governor DeSantis is not going to support people who are not standing against critical race theory and the masking. I know you guys have been in a very tough spot because there's a lot of different viewpoints, a lot of well-spoken individuals who have been here at these meetings. But I would hope that perhaps you take into consideration. There's a lot of advocates like Jennifer Pittman and her group of parents that have been, I'm sure, hopefully been reaching out, sending you guys information. If you have any questions, definitely reach out to them. I'm sure they'll be more than happy to provide you guys information. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Blade. Next speaker, Chris Allen.
Hi, my name is Chris Allen, and I'm one of the founding members of We the People Indian River County and a moderator for Moms for Liberty, Indian River, Florida. Dr. Moore, what happened to the team approach to desegregating public schools? I looked at the SDIRC website and noticed that you now have a coordinator of equity position open. The description is very similar to the February posting and uses the same sentences. This to me is contrary to what you said in last month's school board meeting and in the newspapers. Dr. Schiff, I hope she's listening. You were quoted saying, with new policies and procedures in place, the school district is better than it has been in years. Those policies and procedures include viewing all actions through an equity lens. The district has historically disciplined students of color 2 to 3 times the rate of white children, she said. Enlighten me To you, what is an equity lens? Where's the data to go along with the students that are disciplined? Did you look at color instead of causation? You marginalize teachers' good judgments by saying they punish just by color. I've heard a few concerning statements from these meetings at the school district. I remember that these people are for the equity position and the opinionated HMH curriculum. Aside from being called a KKK member tonight, because I'm not on her side, someone else said that certain people aren't able to understand CRT because they are white. Imagine if there was any other race there except for white. Most of you can see I'm not white and I'm not for CRT, so that's a not very good thing to say. Another one said, I saw many concerns from parents that did not want content included in their children's curriculum because they don't want to feel uncomfortable or their kids feel uncomfortable for being descendants of oppressors. My child is not a descendant of an oppressor just because he's half white. And I'll never have them think that way either. We're all children of God. I don't know why people have to concentrate so much on race when we're supposed to be one human race. I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this again. My child does not need your or those two people's version of social emotional learning. That is my job. My child will not be reduced to a descendant of an oppressor. What happened to teaching normal subjects like math, science, English, and etc., instead of socially engineering children? Ms. Schiff gives examples of children of incarcerated parents, children with families don't have enough to eat. Is this really the majority of the school? How is this equitable? When I first started school, I didn't know English, but they didn't teach the whole class Spanish to English just because I didn't know it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. Please. Next speaker, Larissa Packlin.
Good evening, board members and Dr. Moore. I'm sorry, I do not have a speech prepared today. I just want to say that I'm a mother of two children, one of them 6 and 3. My children don't know that people can be divided by skin color. We do not live like this. We do not divide people. We have different friends. We do not divide people by skin color, by nationality, by accent. We like diversity. We know that being different it's a great thing because we are all different people. So right now, my kids are going to school and they will learn about it, that people can be divided by skin color. Do I want it? No. Do I live like this? No. We see person, we see personality. I do not understand why this board thinks that board knows better than Governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, who said that the critical race theory will ban in Florida. And why do you want to implement these equity positions? It's okay, it is good to teach about Marxism. It is not good to implement. School should teach children, right? Not implement new lifestyle, new political agendas. This is not right. I remember I was very excited when we moved and my son went to school. He's just finished kindergarten. I was very excited that my kids will study in America. Right now I'm thinking, was it a right choice? Because what I see for this year, I am deeply shocked. I had lived in a few different countries before I moved here, and I quite saw and travel and quite saw some differences in different countries. I haven't expected that schools here in America are so much political, that it shouldn't be, that you try to implement something to the children's life, create new society. I don't think this is right, and I don't think that I want my children to be part of it, because once Dr. Moore told he wants to be children successful in the country, I doubt it so much. I doubt that these kids will be successful internationally with this school system, that the curriculum that they are being taught. I really having so much doubts, and if there will be no changes for better, then I have to figure it out where my kids will be studied, because I don't want my children will be part of it. On the other hand, I'm so happy that there are parents who is speaking up here and getting together, speaking for children. I don't like how this board behave. One parent has been fired from his job because he was speaking up for their children. This is not good, and I think that this board doesn't do the right job. I'm sorry. I hope your places will be changed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Backlund. The next speaker is Jennifer Pippin.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Pippin. I'm the chairman for Moms for Liberty of Indian River, Florida, and also one of the admins for We the People of Indian River County. Today, there was discussion during your meeting on how some of you want to silence or limit public comment. Mr. Barefoot, you even said some people who come to speak are not well informed. You were elected by us to serve. It is your job to listen to the public. I have a better solution, I think, that will accomplish more. When do you have the most public input at your meetings? It's when the public is so concerned about issues, they take valuable time away from their family, dinners, ball games, reading bedtime stories to their children, to come before you and to be engaged as a productive member of society for our children. You should applaud that, encourage that, and respect that every time we come to speak. Also, when parents and community members trust that you are doing your job effectively, you won't have tons of public input, would you? I was once that parent. I believed that the people I voted for were going to be best by all children. Unfortunately, because of these decisions you have made, the disrespect you have shown parents, you have lost something very valuable. You have lost the trust and confidence of the people who would be your biggest asset, parents. Your priority should be to restore faith and trust and self-examine your own service to our children. This isn't about winning a political war. It shouldn't be about pushing parents who speak out and colluding with the newspaper and lying to their employers to have them fired. It shouldn't be about trying to take parents who speak out begging for their children to be helped and not support them. This should be about giving children the best education, which will never be accomplished the way we're going. When you make children feel that they are in a broken system because you tried to silence their parents, do better, make this your priority. Everything you do as a board is our business, and parents, taxpayers, community members, we are part of your business. Many people who I hope that you're saying are misinformed never looked at those curriculum books out there, so they have no idea what they're into or that the HMH is endorsed by Black Lives Matter. That is a racial issue. That is a racial problem. Our children don't need to have adult politics, adult sexuality, and adult problems for elementary, middle, or high school age students. Let the parents talk to their children about those issues. And if there's a further issue, then you get somebody else involved. But the teachers, they shouldn't have to deal with that for our children either. Not every student is college bound. Some are technical college bound, family business. Please do best by all children.
Thank you, Ms. Pippin. The next speaker, John Karapi.
Good evening. How's everybody doing? Good? Did you get my email that I sent? You get it? Good. So let's read the letter we got here. So, I'm John Carapi, by the way. I'm the one that's been fired from his job for speaking out. If anybody wants to know, it was in the paper today or the other day. So, your employment in Inter-County Chamber of Commerce was suspended as of pay of May 20th, 2021, to allow the board of directors to find time to find out what I did wrong. A major portion of my role at the chamber requires you to liaison numerous community partners throughout the county. Not least one is the Inter-County School District. We were informed last week by a school board official that you will not be permitted on any school campus in Indian River County. Now I need to know who said that? Who told the chamber that I wasn't allowed on school campus? Mr. Moore? Mr. Barefoot? You didn't tell him. You didn't say nothing. It says it right here that a school board official said that I wouldn't be allowed on campus. I was not suspended. I wasn't trespassed. I spoke to Mr. Teskey. I wasn't trespassed. I spoke to Mr. Bass. He said that Mr. Moore spoke to the chamber, and I don't know what he told them, but I don't know where you think you can tell them that. I don't know who you think you are. But the bottom line is that the people in this room right here, they can't trust you anymore because you guys are lying. You're lying to the newspaper, you're lying to the chamber, and you're lying to this community, and you know it. And now I have nothing else to lose now, and I can't lose my job. The only thing I can lose is my life. That's it. That's all I got left. So somebody up here's lying, and we need to find out today. So who is it? I got 1 minute. Nothing? You didn't call the chamber.
I spoke with
You
the
spoke to the chamber, yeah. Dr. Moore, did you speak to the chamber? And who told them that I was not allowed on campus?
Not me.
Somebody did. Somebody did. And we're going to find out because I'm not going away. If I have to run for school board, then I'll do that. And I'll sit up there. And I'll find out who did it. That's what I'll do.
That's enough.
What do you mean it's enough?
That's enough.
No, I want to know.
You act civilly. Don't sit up there and
I acted
scream at
civilly
us.
before, but now you've done it to yourself. You called the newspaper, you told them that I wasn't allowed on campus, and that's a lie, and you know it. And it is a lie. Because I spoke to him, and he said that you spoke to the chamber, and so you just said you did too. But nobody said that I was trespassed. Nobody called me from the school district and said I was trespassed. So I want to know who said it. You got 10 seconds. Shame on both of yous, because both of yous are lying, and you know it. And I'm going to find out, and it's going to get in the paper eventually, and it's going to be retracted. Because I don't care about the job. It has nothing to do with the job. It has to do with integrity and the truth.
All right,
and being
Mr. Carapi,
authentic.
you're finished
And
tonight.
I'm finished?
Thank you
Yeah,
very
no,
much.
I was finished a long time ago. You're finished. Because you know what? It's time for you to go, and it's time for him to go. End of story. Bye-bye.
That's enough, people. I would tell you, Mr. Carapi, that when you threaten people online, as you did, you absolutely threaten people online.
It's okay to call 32963 and tell them lie. That's okay. But if I post, hey, maybe we should just protest in front of their house, you call the Johns Island.
And use disruptive force. Mr. Carapi, you are out of line.
No, you're out of line. You're the one that did it. You did it to yourself. Yeah, I'm not out of line. You are. All you are. You're on. It's going to happen. Believe me.
The next speaker is Crystal McIntyre.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, esteemed board members, Superintendent Moore, teachers, and staff. Until yesterday, I wasn't going to come to the podium to speak, but I've read something recently that just has me baffled. Apparently, there is a small faction of this community who, despite being reassured numerous times by almost all of the board members that CRT is not being proposed, they refuse to believe that. They're not hearing you. They believe there is a hidden agenda of some kind by the 600 teachers, administrators, Department of Education personnel, and other invited curriculum reviewers to in their words, indoctrinate our children. Sadly, this information is not new to me, nor the rest of you in this room. We all aware why there's no seats lately, but what is new to me, and to dozens of other community members who are troubled by this, is the list of keywords parents are being told to look for, words and phrases being referred to as trigger words, or keywords they see being used to slip in CRT, words such as equality, inclusiveness, culturally responsive teaching, social justice, and critical thinking. Imagine that these words are being thought of as triggering. Who are they triggering? Certainly not our children. What really drove me to speak tonight is the impact the opposite of these words can have. If those previously stated words and phrases are considered to be harmful to our children, what is the impact of the opposite of these words? Inequality, exclusiveness, culturally insensitive teaching, social injustice, passive thinking. Are those words not triggering? Do those words not divide a community and drive wedges between social classes and races and modern families? How can this be where we are heading with our children instead of where we are quickly running away from? Equality is not a trigger word. Inclusiveness should not be a trigger word. Critical thinking is not something to be afraid of. I just cannot comprehend this. We do not have to be intimidated as parents by allowing our kids to acquire critical thinking skills. As I've heard someone in this room once say, equity in education requires putting systems in place to ensure that every child has an equal chance for success. I came here tonight as part of a group of parents and community members who want to reassure you that we are here to support that system, that you have our trust, and that we are tired of a small part of the community inferring that just because they're louder than us and that they speak for us and our children. Please know that we stand with you in the essential task of fully educating our children. We support you in whatever way you may need. We are not here to bully you, but to support you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. McIntyre. Next speaker is Cindy Gibbs.
Good evening. Thanks for your patience as I walk in. I'm Cindy Gibbs. I live in Sebastian. I was here at the last meeting. I'm here to support the educators and the other staff in our county as a parent and a former educator. One of the main talking points, I wrote this long before I arrived, sorry. One of the main talking points we keep hearing about in Florida these days is this concept that our teachers and our other educators in the K-12 schools are somehow bent on indoctrinating the students to hate their own race or to unduly question the differences among and between things. And that having these discussions about controversial topics in the classroom might make some kids hate their country or their community. They keep talking about how critical race theory is sneaking in somehow. The governor has banned it, so are we sure that these educators are somehow sneaking it in? Do we really think that every teacher in this school district is here to ruin children? I mean, come on, they hardly get paid. That's what they're gonna do? People can yell about it and say that it is, but that doesn't make it true. We've also heard a lot of people say that we're all one race, the human race, as the great Jane Elliott, the American diversity educator, likes to say. However, that is often misappropriated and twisted to mean that we shouldn't recognize race and whatever experiences particular races or ethnicities may have had. I'll step back for a second and be super simplistic about it. When we study geometry in school, no good teacher would say, you know what, kids, they're all shapes. We don't need to talk about how some have 3 sides and some have 4. You only need to know that they have shapes and that they're all important. Of course, that's absurd. We would never do that. We would talk about how triangles are super strong building materials and how rectangles are everywhere and how circles don't have angles. We can take another slightly closer analogy and say that no good teacher would teach children that we can just call them animals and not discuss that giraffes are tall herbivores and that horses once had toes, but they've evolved into hooves. Again, absurd, and again, super simplistic. But the concept is the same. To learn well, we must pull things apart and look at them deeply and have lively conversation to work it out. Saying that diversity or inclusion or cultural studies or gender studies, it doesn't mean indoctrination. How can we expect children to stand every day and pledge the flag, which might be called indoctrination, but we can't allow them to talk and learn about the differences and conflicts that got us that flag and allow us to continue to fly that flag? Public education is the place in the U.S. where children of all backgrounds, regardless of who they are, come for a quality education, including everyone. And we're lucky because our county and our country also has private schools with all kinds of mission statements where people can choose to send their kids if they're unhappy with the public school system. We have a whole bunch right here. We've got Shiloh, Cross Style, Glendale, Tabernacle, just to name a few. And there's homeschool groups. We have everything. So if you're unhappy, maybe it's time to make another choice, because at public school, we teach everyone. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Gibbs. Next speaker, Kimberly Westcott. Mr. Westcott, you're next. If she comes, we'll fit her in.
Good evening. Thank you for taking the time to hear from us. I'm going to rephrase. I think that it's time on this curriculum issue to tap the brakes. I think others have referred to timeout. Statute section 1006-36 allows the district to request an extension of an existing contract. That may be one means. You've already heard the issue with regard to restarting after the year that we had and the challenges associated with that. Why would we compound that by adding a new curriculum on top of it? Additionally, someone referred to the statements of Governor DeSantis. It's going to be a political issue. In my mediation practice, sometimes I have to do a reality check. I think a reality check for us in the room is the likelihood that we're going to spend $3 million plus on a curriculum and then have to go through and excise a good bit of it, because it does have a good deal of social engineering and critical race theory elements to it. The primary proponent or the individual, Dr. Tyrone Howard, who, as I understand from looking at the HMH website, is the spearhead, if you will, for this curriculum that's being considered, has some writing on the website. A quote, "The world is saying Black Lives Matter," in quotation marks capitalized. "Let teachers build on this movement to say the same thing when it comes to schooling." Additionally, a statement, "We believe the education system needs to change, and we will continue to use our platform to make that change. We commit to start at home, amplify Black voices, leverage our scale, lobby for change, teach social justice." The problem is, woven in the fabric of this curriculum is a good deal of creating activists, social activists. When the real solution to a lot of the problem that's the school district responsibility in terms of improving academics is to improve academics. Plain and simple. I know that we've considered Amplified, and that was the first choice. But I've scratched my head how Amplified could have been choice number one and HMH could be choice number two from the same committee that looked at this. I would invite you all to explore every opportunity to give us more time so that Amplified can be ratified by the DOE so that you can adopt it like you told you wanted to. One of those vehicles would be 106.36, an extension of the existing contracts. The other is, if it's possible to delay the hearing process, stretch it out. Give DOE an opportunity to do what we've asked them to do, and that is approve Amplified. Amplified does not do what this one does. This one is weak on academics, and it's social engineering. I've previously provided my objections to the curriculum. I think I sent it to each of you. I'd invite you to make sure that you read it. Don't waste $3.1 million on a curriculum that you're going to have to gut probably before too long anyway. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Westcott. at the end? All right. A lot of these comments and questions we're going to address at the end, so don't leave because we will, Mr. Meyer and Dr. Moore will address some of your concerns. But the next speaker is Jane Hayden.
Hi, good evening. Jane Hayden, and I'm here to support the parents and the teachers and all the concerned citizens that are objecting to the critical race theory curriculum. I'm a taxpayer also, retired from teaching profession as well as law enforcement, and I think that it would be very wise and prudent for the board to listen to the parents and listen to the public that are intelligent, that have taken a lot of time and energy to study this. They're not just blowing hot air, and I just think it would be very wise and prudent for you to also consider and at least research into the topics that they've discussed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hayden. The next speaker, Brianna, I apologize, I'm having a hard time. Welsh, thank you.
Hello, how are you? This is my first time at one of these meetings. I didn't know about these meetings, and I learned about it on Facebook. Being called a KKK member or white supremacist is pretty ignorant. My son is biracial. I was raised by 2 women my entire life. I grew up in that environment, and I say that to say that I didn't know anything different because we weren't taught. It wasn't broadcast. I think critical race theory is atrocious. I don't think that teaching our children that they're different is appropriate. The women that spoke before me and the gentleman over there said it all. I mean, we were not different. And teaching people that teaching children that we're different is the problem. There's a problem, it's called division, and it starts from the top. The people, the adults, are causing the problem. We hear it over and over again. United we stand, divided we fall. If we keep dividing and teaching that because of our skin color, we're different, it's not right. I'm a college graduate. I just graduated this past summer, this past semester. Indoctrination is real. It's happening. I got zeros on papers because I refused to write about what they were asking me to write about. I don't want to focus on that. That's the problem, focusing on the racism and Black Lives Matter. I want to focus on the solution. And the solution is uniting, coming together. You know, children are impressionable, and they don't need to be coerced by liberal teachers. It's not right. I hope that this isn't introduced into the school system, because I would hate to have to pull my son out of school over something like this. Like it was said before, allow us to teach our children about things like that. I appreciate what you all do. It takes a lot to be up here, and we do appreciate what you guys do. And I'm grateful I came tonight, and I'll be at more of these meetings. I like to be involved in what's going on in my school. And I'll say this to end this. I've gone to every one of my son's school parent-teacher conferences, and they never tell us about what they're teaching our children. They only tell us about how our children are doing. And if I would have known what I read out there in those books were being taught to my child, I would have had a problem with it then. I probably would have been more involved then. He's going in the 6th grade this year, and now that I know what's happening, I will definitely be more involved. And I hope more parents get involved, because I think that's what the problem is. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Welsh. Next speaker, Robert Schmidt.
Thank you, everybody. My name is Robert Schmidt, and I'm proud to be here tonight to voice my opinion. I agree with the gentleman that was here earlier about Abilify. Is it abilify? Amplify. Abilify makes you feel better, right? Okay. Amplify. I agree with amplify 100%. My vote is for amplify. As a U.S. citizen, my vote is for amplify. As a concerned father, my vote is for amplify. There's a lot of talk going on around the nation about this critical race theory. And it is defined as theoretical, which means that it is not actual, it is not substantial, it is not true. They favor the race-conscious approach to social transformation, relying on political organization. CRT, critical race theory, is not a race-based remedies or social structure based on the ability of an individual. I love individual freedoms. I love my individual rights. I love what a man once said. I have a dream that one day my children will be, what? Judged by the content of their character and not the color of their race. Martin Luther King, a great man. CRT, critical race theory, has roots and revisionist interpretations through the civil rights law that criticize the civil rights law of the United States, as it is the only way to improve the image of the United States throughout the world. They wanted to make the United States look bad, that it's a racist country. Well, let me just voice one more thing, that there are 195 nations in the world. America is one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And it's the one nation that's being attacked from abroad. And this attack took place in 1930, called the Frankfurt School, that started to devise critical thinking, how to destroy Western culture. Destroy it from within. Go within it and rip it apart. A lady just said, divide, you fall, united we stand. I think it's time that the school board, as it's been said tonight, to give a timeout. We beg you to give a timeout because our children are individuals. They need to be taught that they are human and that they have a right to grow. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt. Next speaker is Carolyn Kleinpeter. Peter.
I am white. I'm a white woman. In case you didn't notice, are you shocked? Well, you're probably racist for judging me. You're judging my skin. We passed this many, many years ago, if you don't recall. Why are we bringing it up again? The first speaker spoke about the housing issue. There is the Equal Housing Act, so I don't know why she brought that up. Guess what? There are many blacks making more money than I could ever imagine. There are blacks in jobs that I applied to due to the equal employment opportunity. I was not picked because the diversity box had to be checked. It had nothing to do with experience of the job. It had to do with someone didn't want to be embarrassed or be called out because they hired a white woman. There are blacks that live in nicer neighborhoods than I. Their kids go to private schools. Mine go to a propagandized public school. And some are even former brain surgeons like Dr. Ben Carson. So that what you're teaching, what you want to teach is BS. Now, I want to make one thing clear, you're all racists. And you're racist for putting this on the agenda. You shouldn't even be thinking about this. And the curriculum, putting it in the curriculum too. Each and every one of you are racists. If you aren't aware, the head of the Black Lives Matter movement had to step down in embarrassment because she lived in a mansion in a well-to-do neighborhood which, if you remember, she told her followers to burn down those well-to-do neighborhoods a year ago. And because of the hypocrisy, she had to step down. So it's a Black Lives Matter movement disaster. She was just taking the money. She's also a self-proclaimed Marxist, hello, and you want to teach her agenda in our schools? You're taking her info and putting it into our children's minds. That's warping their minds to make them think like little commie Marxists, just like her. Is it our superintendent pushing this? Is it the teachers' union pushing this? Is it commie stealth teachers pushing this? Marxism and communism is void of God. Whatever it is, you are continually shoving racist down our throats. And we're sick and tired of your commie Marxist propaganda, your assault on the nuclear family, your assault on fathers, your assault on our children, and pushing anal sex in the curriculum agenda at a young age. Your new language for pronouns for sexes, by the way, all kids have to go to the bathroom and they should know what kind of sex they are.
All right, thank you.
You should be teaching reading, writing, arithmetic,
Thank
art,
you.
music.
Your time's up.
You're welcome.
Thank you. The next speaker, Mink Tyner. Ms. Tyner is the last speaker. If she's not here, we'll check, and then Dr. Moore and others will address many of the comments made here tonight. Well, I guess Ms. Tyner's not here.
Hold on, run in.
Whoop, here she comes.
Nope, it's me. So listen, I do want to say thank you so much for giving me a phone call. That really meant a lot to me, and it is greatly appreciated that you took the time and effort to do so. So thank you so much. So listen, Leadership 101, guys. There's an issue with something, and I know you guys have been spoken to on a great number of things, but what it all comes down to is generalization. Leadership 101, you see an issue with your team, with your community, you pay attention to it, you focus on it, you see what you can do, even if some plans that are implemented at first might not be like the best, see what you can do to divert and fix that issue so that everybody can elevate, right? The school system here failed me, okay? By the time I hit the flick, the biggest idea of any kind of involvement I had at school was having the school resource officer follow me around to see what they could expel me for, okay? That's not the kind of support that any of our kids need. That's not the kind of support that I needed. I've seen a lot of my friends fall through the cracks, and they're still there. They're still down there in adulthood. I'm 36 years old now. I turned my life around, okay? I've adopted 3 beautiful children. I have 4 in total. They're all in the current school system right now. I'm trying to do everything for them that was not done for me. And it's hard. It's really hard. There's a lot of conflicting things out there. So one thing that I'm going to tell you guys, and one thing I would like to leave you with, is no matter what information is thrown at you, I would like to caution you greatly against the information you absorb from local groups like Moms for Bigotry that seek to group people like me into groups with like necrophilia I've seen about myself. My kids see this kind of stuff, bestiality. There's a lot of propaganda getting shoved around out there, and a lot of it, I don't know if you guys are privy to it, but it's not pleasant. It's not a pleasant feeling for myself. It's not a pleasant feeling for my children, and it's just so depraved and demented at this point that it's hard to really grasp that there's people up here that are trying to shove things down other people's throats like that. It's hard. It's hard for me. It's hard for my kids. It's hard for kids like me and like my kids. It's rough. So please just exercise a lot of caution when you are absorbing information to that degree. And I would like to take this opportunity also to offer myself to you guys as a reference, okay? I took up speaking at the alternative school. I have multiple businesses in the area, multiple coming up. I'm actually creating safe places for abused women and children. I'm actually looking to get into Guardian Ad Litem program. There's a lot of things that I do as far as community outreach because I firmly believe in breaking the cycle, okay? That's what I'm here for. I'm here for open rapport. I'm here for communication. I'm here for factual information, okay? And I'm here to be a resource for you guys. I've offered myself as a resource to other groups Ford mentioned and have completely been snubbed and pushed out of it. And to be honest with you, if we're gonna talk public school, being for the public, being for all children, then let's be inclusive of all children, okay? Thank you guys so much. And Mr. Barefoot, thank you again. All right, you guys have
Thank
a
you,
good
Ms.
day.
Tyner. All right, that concludes public comment. I will turn it over to Dr. Moore for some comments. And
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a few comments, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Meyer for some additional comments. Now the mic is on. First and foremost, there is no vote in front of the board this evening, so there's nothing on the agenda regarding an adoption of any curriculum. There is no vote tonight. We are in the process of looking at two different curriculums, as mentioned, Amplify being one, which was the committee's first choice. That curriculum was not placed on the state's list, the state list in which we must select from, one of 5 different curriculums that were on it. Now, Amplify is working with the state, and we anticipate it being placed on the list, completely out of our control. In the meantime, we reconvened, and what this board approved was a very unique process, which was the right process of approving Amplify and approving HMH, because we wanted to peruse or pursue a parallel track, so we were prepared regardless of what decision the state would make. So we are in the midst of that particular window of time. We do have a State Board of Education meeting that will be taking place Wednesday. There is additional rule language that's being proffered by our chancellor, which addresses some of the issues that are put in place today, which some ways protects districts. Truth be told, when we look at that language that comes in, doesn't make any shifts or modifications to the work this district is currently doing. Mr. Meyer will go over some of that language. So no vote this evening. We are in the midst, if anyone wanted to submit an appeal regarding the HMH, we do have those petitions which we will hear at a later date. That window closes, and just to say it closes next, I want to say Thursday, correct? Closes Thursday. So right now we have 4 appeals, which will allow us this upcoming Thursday. Yes, I'm fast forwarding. So in terms of time, we do have that window of time. A number of individuals referenced a pause. I would caution the board and anyone who is listening that we're going into new standards next school year. And we do not want to be the system that teaches old standards to our students. We want to ensure that we are providing instruction that are aligned to the standards in which our students would be assessed. And currently, where we stand as a system, which we've all spoken about, we've had a strategic plan created in order to address where we rank across 67 counties. And we rank in the lowest 50th percentile. Our strategic plan will take us to 10th in the top 10 in the next 4 years. We can't do that when we're teaching Common Core standards that are outdated with 2014 curriculum that wasn't very efficient to begin with. We cannot do that when we have all kinds of different curriculums and content throughout all of the schools. So looking at what the state has approved, allowing the state, as Ms. Barenborg has said, to respond to some of these same concerns. The issue is at the state level. They're looking at it, and we anticipate some direction from the state in the coming weeks. But to move away from a curriculum that isn't aligned to the standards in which students would be assessed puts our students at a disadvantage, and that's not something that I'm willing to do. So we do look at curriculum very, very seriously. We have, at a very, very deep level, looked at this. I've had the opportunity to engage and connect with a number of superintendents across the state dealing with very, very similar issues. We're confident Amplify, we're confident HMH provides us the opportunity to provide quality instruction for our students with materials and resources that are aligned to the standards. Mr. Myers, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Through the chair, I think you hit most of it, right? I mean, I'm proud of the work that the state has done, proud of the work that this district has done to eliminate Common Core. We're very excited about the opportunity to get new instructional materials in the hands of our teachers to improve the outcomes for our students. You know, and knowing that the state had experts appointed by Commissioner Corcoran that reviewed these materials for accuracy, for the unbiased, gave us great confidence that they were appropriate for our students. One of the speakers mentioned the rubric that we use is the same rubric that the state of Florida uses, right? So it's not like our district is doing anything different. As you said, Dr. Moore, our first choice was Amplify. The work of 600 elementary teachers, you know, was selecting HMH second. I don't believe that these teachers have critical race theory on their mind. I don't believe that anybody wants that taught. I'm excited about the proposed rule that the state board is bringing on, I think it's Thursday, it's actually the 10th, that says that we should efficient and faithful teach what's age appropriate using the materials, and the teachers should not use their own particular point of view. I think that's exactly what we want. I think that we want to agree on the instructional materials and to make sure they're in use. And as you mentioned, Dr. Moore, we're happy to continue to hear from the public, happy to hear any petitions the hearing officer may find, someone else may find the materials need to be amended. The commissioner could certainly amend any of the instructional materials or require them to be amended. And if the publishers refuse to amend them, can take them off the list. They can do that at any given time. If Commissioner Corcoran, I guarantee you, the governor is aware of this whole issue, and if Governor DeSantis felt like critical race theory was in any of these books, he would instruct the commissioner to tell them to modify them, which gives me great confidence in going from the list that state adopted. I think that that's the fear that I would have to not choose something from that list. We wouldn't have someone to review that to ensure that critical race theory was not in the books, because I'll tell you, I just honestly, I don't see it. Personally, I'm happy to have that conversation with people who feel that the materials contain certain things. The student-facing materials, I have not seen anything that meets the level of criteria within the statutes. But happy to go through the process, happy to receive the feedback from the state, and we'll continue to keep everyone informed.
That's all we got.
Go ahead, Mrs. Berenborn.
If that's okay. Having served on a state adoption committee, it's an interesting process. It takes over a year. You are selected by your district. Your name is put forth on a list sent to the state. The state then decides who they're going to pick because they want a cross-section of people. They want, and Mr. Meyer, when you send that form to the state that says we would like to nominate these people, they're not always picked, right? But you're able to give, have you been here long enough to know that process? I'm just curious.
It's a little different now, but yes,
Okay.
and so.
So the people that, because one of the comments that was made to me, and I read it this week, was that this committee is made up of state people and indoctrinated people. And that is not true. I was one of those people, and I was a teacher here in our county on a state level to go up there several times to Tallahassee and choose a science adoption, which if you think this is interesting conversation that's going on, just wait till we get to science and civics. So what was interesting about it, though, is that there's a cross-section of people that are picked for this committee. They pick, the district nominates, and I don't know what they do now, but when I did it, it was they nominate teachers, they nominate a principal or an administrator, they can nominate a board member, they can nominate a citizen. And there is a cross-section. When I served, there were several people on the committee, and they were all different types of people. They weren't all educators. They were a cross-section. And that I want to put out there because I think people are under the impression that this committee was self-selected by a state person and that they're indoctrinated in the system. It was very much a cross-section of people and very differing opinions, which I think is important when you're looking at something like this. We were tasked with looking at the standards and looking at the specifications that were given through law from legislature, agrees on those standards, they agree on those specifications. Those specs, they call them, are now given to the publishers to create the books. That's how they create books. And then from there, then those books are put up for the adoption list. And it's a very competitive process to put your book on the adoption list. This is why Amplify is going through a lot of, I think, hassle because for some reason, I don't know what the reason is, they didn't hit one of the standards that they have to hit. And so that's the process. Because I've read something this week that said that's not the process. So I'm going to tell you that is a process. I've been through it. And it's a good process because it does give a good cross-section of people. I also know that when they were going through this particular committee process, CRT wasn't prevalent in the nation's talk. And so now that all of a sudden it's prevalent in the nation's talk after this committee has already gone through their work. So I do understand that the fact that now that there are concerns by people, now it's in the hands of the governor and the DOE to, like you said, which is what I did, is call up there and ask, you know, are those books being vetted again? Are they being reviewed for the things that people are so concerned about? Yes, we need to teach cultural respect. Yes, we need to be respectful of each other. But we need to be respectful of each other and all the races that are represented. And for one race to be told that they're wrong compared to another, you know, we're in a race war now. And school districts should not be in that. We should not be involved in that. And so I think that, you know, it's going to be interesting what happens in the next 10 days with the DOE. We are monitoring it. I am monitoring it. I know Mr. Meyer is. I think I ask you almost every day, every other day, what's happening with Amplify. Because it is, I love Amplify as far as the fact that it uses trade books. That's the other thing is that you don't understand that teachers love, is that, you know, the fluffy stories that we've been teaching about dinosaurs and dragons and things like that to kindergartners and first graders are going to be replaced with trade books that are out there that have been in the public eye for years. And so I think that's why I like to Amplify so much, is that kids are going to actually get real stories and real people and kind of interesting things. There was another comment that was made about a couple things about Ms. Hills mentioned something about racist comments in one of the stories. I would love to know what story you're referring to. So Ms. Hill, I will call you later. Mr. Blade, masking. I saw you walk back in, Mr. Blade. Masking has been, we voted last meeting about that, so that is optional for next year. So that's not going to be an issue. As far as the quarantining part that he brought up, again, that is not something the school district does. That is something that the public health department does. And believe me, we went on and back and forth about whether or not we could actually take on the public health department with our attorney. And I believe that conversation went on all fall. And we were told, no, we can't do that. So that's something that is a little bit out of our hands. It is a little frustrating too. The last one was the comment, and I'm not going to repeat the comment, but Ms. Klein-Peter, I'm going to call you about the one that you made a comment about, because you said that something's being taught in our curriculum that I cannot believe is being taught in our curriculum. Miss, please don't speak right now. I will call you. I will call you. We can't have that back and forth right now, okay? It's not allowed. So I will definitely call you about that because I want to know where it is. I want to know. Okay, as a board member, it's my job. Somebody's saying something like that, I want to know where it is, so I can address it. Okay. The whole movement for 20 years. Okay, anyway, you know, I understand the passion here on both sides. I understand it. And, you know, it's frustrating to try to do a good job as a board member, and you're not going to, obviously, you're not going to make everybody happy, and that's not my job. But my job is also to keep politics out of the schools. This is where it can happen. This is free speech. but we got to keep politics out of the schools. And that is what we've been tasked to do. And it's on both sides. Politics need to be out of the schools. So that's all I have to say.
Dr. Jones.
Mr. Meyer, do you know if Amplify has a shot at getting approved, or have you heard any feedback on that yet?
To the chair, it seems very favorable.
Okay.
Generally with this, the publishers have an opportunity to ask what they need to amend, and the DOE is very specific about the requirements.
Okay.
And as long as the publisher is willing to make those changes, they make the changes and they get on the list. And so everyone is saying that they're working together to get that done. There's not any animosity or refusal or anything like that. So I don't want to make the comment that it's not if it's when, but
Right.
everything seems to be moving towards that. So the sooner the better, clearly, in our instance, to,
Right.
get across that finish line.
And I think it's so important that everyone remembers that that was our first choice, and we didn't want to take a chance of not going for something that wasn't state adopted, because once it's state adopted, we certainly assume that it's meeting all the standards that we need to have for our students. And what Dr. Moore said earlier, we just cannot take a chance on keeping the same curriculum we're dealing with now with the new standards, because we've got a lot of work to do in the academic areas, and I think it's very, very important. And as what Ms. Berenborg said, we're listening to all sides, and we want a school district where we can come together, do the best for our students in every respect. And I certainly thank the parents who come out and speak, and then we get emails from those who cannot come out and speak, so we do our best to listen to everyone. And we want to keep the academics in the system. We want to keep the focus of academics. And if one gets adopted over the others, then we can look at the supplemental material. But I mean, I wish some more teachers were here to speak, because they're not out there saying, well, we're going to teach critical race theory, or we're going to teach that one race is better than the other, or we're going to teach division. That's not happening. So let's just keep focused on what we need to do for our kids. Once we get that, whatever adoption that we get, maybe we'll get Amplify, then we can look at the resources with the teachers to see, what areas that people may be uncomfortable with once we have it. But if you look at the standards and what we have to do on a daily basis, and any current teachers and principals out there know this, they don't have a minute to breathe. I mean, there is no fluff in this curriculum. With the language arts, obviously with the literacy, we talk about that all the time, what we need to do to get our students ready for kindergarten. I'll show my age here, but I went to kindergarten to learn. Now these kids take a test, see where they are and what we need to do. And I think it's just very, very important that we keep that focus and continue to move on. Thank you.
I understand, Dr. Schiff, can you hear? I think you're on mute.
Sorry, I thought I for the whole time. Sorry, I'm echoing here. Just I don't know if I can fix it.
You're good. We can hear you.
Okay, on my, so I'm not sure how to fix that. I am not going to respond to citizen comment here. I've been listening to all of it. My only question right now is Dr. Moore addressed the academic implications of going with outdated curriculum from standards that are no longer taught. I'm also curious, and I don't know if you have the answer to this, what are the legal implications of selecting curriculum that is not approved by the state, that does not teach to the standards required by the state, and what are potentially our legal responsibilities and obligations to students who may then not be being academically prepared to meet standards they're required to meet by the state?
I don't know if there's a legal issue, but it would be absolute incompetence. And if we were to put ourselves in a situation when we asked our educators who go above and beyond to do the absolute best by kids on a daily basis, who have been champions in teaching our children over the course of the last year, to equip them with subpar materials and resources is an absolute disservice. So I don't know if there's anything legally that could be done, but morally, I just say that would be wrong.
I actually meant legal liability. To have a child who may not meet standards in a school district system because what we're teaching is not state approved and does not meet those standards. I meant our liability more than anything.
Ms. DiAgresta, you want to comment?
Yes, thank you. Dr. Schiff, the issue that you're referring to is essentially an educational malpractice cause of action, which is not recognized in the state of Florida. So my initial comment to you is no, there is not an educational malpractice cause of action in the state of Florida. But separate from that, we have to remember our last instructional material adoption was to select materials from the state-approved list. So the issue that we may run into is if that original contract from 3 or 4 years ago has expired at the state level, then we really don't have a contract mechanism to continue to buy those other books.
Probably wouldn't be available.
Thank you.
All right, anything else, Dr. Schiff?
Not right now, thank you.
Okay, thanks. All right, well, that, anything I
Mr.
would say.
Barefoot?
Does Ms. Rosario has
Oh,
her hand
I'm
up?
sorry, Mrs. Rosario?
Hi, I have had my hand up, so thank you very much. First, I want to apologize to everybody for coming in a little bit late. I got caught in a lot of traffic, so I do apologize for that. I have a question for Mrs. DiAgresta. Mrs. DiAgresta, what are the legalities or the process, I don't even know how to ask the question, about implementing or, wait, let me think of how I want to ask this. Mr. Paul Westcott came up and he stated, quoted a Florida statute 100636, and he said that there was a 2-year waiting period. Can you speak to that? Do you know what that is? What does that mean if a district chooses a 2-year waiting period?
May I,
Yes.
Mr. Chair? Mrs. Rosario, the statute that was cited during public comment is a statute directed to the State Board of Education and the Commissioner of Education. It provides them with authority to do or not do certain things with regard to the state level curriculum adoption. It is not a statute directed to the school board.
So am I to understand that we do not have an option to extend any time period to further vet any other curriculum?
Further vet. Mrs. Rosario, the school district goes through a school board policy process that the school board approved in order to comply with your statutory obligations of how you adopt instructional materials. And district staff are in that process now. If at the end of that process, the recommendation from the superintendent to the school board is rejected by the school board, then the district starts over with that process and looks at whatever other materials may be available. There really isn't a deadline for this other than the administrative deadline of you must really make a decision at some point to allow time to order the instructional materials, to have them here for students to use and for employees to be trained to use them. I mean, I think that might be the deadline that you're thinking of, but it's not an instructional materials deadline. It is an internal management requirement of needing time to order, receive, and train on the materials before that August date when students come back to class.
Thank you.
I think I hope I answered your question.
No, I think you did. I think you did. We're, other than the process that we're going through right now, there's really nothing else that hinders us from moving forward, essentially, or not. So I suppose we'll all see what happens on the 22nd. But I do understand what is being mentioned or the concerns of the community with HMH. HMH has committed publicly to racial literacy and racial justice in education. And so if that's their public commitment, the understanding is that those are the items that will show up in their curriculum. Collier County has already gone through their process and have had multiple objections submitted for the same reasons. We are not an anomaly. This is happening in districts all over. Dr. Moore was correct. West Palm Beach has citizens as concerned as Indian River County. I just mentioned Collier County, same thing. The objections that were submitted, or rather, let me go back to Collier County. Right now, they have already appointed a hearing officer to take a look at all of the objections that were submitted, which are on their website, so anybody is free to take a look at those. But Governor DeSantis has, on Saturday, this past Saturday, made another declaration that he gave orders or directives, rather, to the Commissioner of Education to go to the Department of Education to ban critical race theory and any departure from it or any departure from our standards. So I don't have any doubts that that's not going to be coming around the corner. I mean, that we should hear very, very soon. Several weeks ago, I proposed that we create a policy in our school district to ensure that we do not support critical race theory in our schools. But I'm sure that, with a ban from our governor, our policy would actually mirror whatever the ban is that I'm positive is coming very soon. My only concern is the time limit and the overlapping of all of this. We're moving forward, but it seems the DOE with regard to Amplify is kind of at a standstill. So I'm worried about moving forward with HMH or the district moving forward in that area. And we may miss an opportunity for Amplify. I don't want to go ahead and purchase. I want us to get it right. I don't want us to spend, a whole lot of money only to find out that we shouldn't have purchased the curriculum that we purchased. I'd rather us wait and get it right than anything else. But that's for, I guess that's for a future conversation. With regard to John Karapi, I just want to say that it's really unfortunate. All of what has happened to him is just incredibly unfortunate. No one deserves to lose their job. No one. And I am, the way that I was talked to at our last meeting was despicable. And yet there's no backlash, front story, over the way that I was talked to at that meeting. So I just think that there is an incredibly unfair double standard, and it's just not right. So I'm not approving any behavior that will disrupt our board meetings. I'm just saying nobody deserves to have their job taken from them.
Anything else, Mrs. Rosario?
No, sir. Thank you very much.
All right. There's really nothing I can add. Obviously, we keep our fingers, toes, and whatever else you can cross here over the next several days and hope that Amplify is put back on the list. And if it is, we're in a good position, assuming that the recommendation continues to be to approve that at the next board meeting. But I'm sure there will be plenty of information coming from Tallahassee to the district and ultimately through to all of us on the school board here over the next several days.
Collier County voted to pause HMH
Okay.
yesterday. Their school board voted to
Okay.
pause it after their hearing.
All right, the next agenda item is the consent agenda. And may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mr. Chair, just
Yes.
on item 6B, extended day fee, there is a verbal modification I need to make. We discussed at workshop having the $10 registration fee versus the 20 for employees. It was initially changed but not uploaded correctly. So it's just adding for the employees a one simple line that says the registration fee for employees is $10 versus 20, which was discussed at workshop.
Okay. All right, so with that.
Thank you, Dr. Moore.
So may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So move.
Is there
I'll
a second?
second.
Mr. Rosario, second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Can I have the floor one more time?
Opposed? Motion carries. I believe you voted, Dr. Schiff?
I did. I think it was drowned out by other board members.
Okay, 5-0, thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I could.
Yes, sir.
I did want to acknowledge two individuals that were just appointed on our consent agenda who are in the room and will be stepping up to the plate and serving the children and the community of our district. And I don't want to put them on the spot, but I'm going to ask them to come up here and speak anyway. Miss Rachel Morey, who is the now former principal of Pelican Island, just went through a very in-depth interview process and now has accepted and you have approved her appointment as the Director of Exceptional Student Education, and we couldn't be any prouder of the role that she's going to fill. So Ms. Morey, if you can come in and give your charge to the board, we'd greatly appreciate it.
Good evening, board members, Dr. Moore, everyone here tonight. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I am beyond thankful that I got to spend the last 2 years at Pelican Island Elementary. It's an amazing school. I am so proud of the work that we've done there, and I know police will do amazing things keeping it going. And this new adventure is one that I'm very proud to do as well. I come from a family of educators. My mom is an ESE teacher and has served ESE students for her whole career. I'm very excited to follow in her footsteps and hope to make her proud and this district proud, fighting the good fight for students. So thank you.
And our second appointee who is here, and I'll bring the others and future board members when their board meetings, when they're available, just finished her first year as assistant principal at Treasure Coast and was an assistant principal at other schools prior to that. She is our current assistant principal of the year for the entire district. And every time I see her, I've always called her a principal in waiting, but she is not waiting anymore. I'd like to bring to this podium Ms. Hepburn, who is now serving as principal at Pelican Island.
I was going to say good morning, but good evening. Good evening. I'm just going to, after all the citizen input, I'm just going to leave my little speech in my purse and just speak from the heart. But I just want to say thank you to Dr. Moore. Thank you to school board members for giving me the opportunity to serve in this capacity as principal. I'm so excited for the opportunity. It's been a long time coming and waiting, so I'm very happy and excited. I also want to thank my family, my friends, my biggest supporters who have helped me along the way throughout my career. I'm just excited to, begin the work at Pelican Island as principal. I'm excited to meet the students and the families and the community members and all of the, stakeholders at the school. Ready to begin the work and do what's best by kids. Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is a public hearing and adoption of Volume 21, Number 2. And this item deals with the adoption of new and revised school board policies. And so, Dr. Moore, have you documented that this public hearing was properly advertised in accordance with state statutes?
I have, sir.
We now will recess this meeting to conduct the public hearing as advertised. The public hearing is now in session. Dr. Moore, are there any written responses to the advertised public hearing to be read at this time?
No.
The public is invited to address this issue at this time. Is there an individual representing an organization or his or her own personal or public interest who wishes to speak? The chair concludes that the announced public hearing on the adoption of the new and revised school board policies has been conducted pursuant to notice, and that ample opportunity to address this issue has been provided to us. So at this point, the board meeting is reconvened, and I guess we need a vote. May I have a motion to approve?
So move.
And a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. Moving right along, the next item is a report from the superintendent.
Just a very brief update to the board. As you know, we opened up summer school Monday, very successful opening. As we've said a number of times before, we are tripling the amount of support we're providing to students over the course of the summer. So very, very happy to kick off summer school being led at a number of schools throughout our district. Also, just to recap, this morning, we had the opportunity to kick off 37 new initiatives, all aligned to our district strategic plan, as well as highlighting some of the innovative things that are happening in each of our schools. So if you hadn't seen the business meeting that kicked off bright and early at 8:30 this morning, I would encourage everyone to go back and take a look regarding the new initiatives that this school system is rolling out to ensure that we meet the objectives defined within our strategic plan, really to be a world-class educational system where we will be at the top 10 of all educational areas within the state of Florida.
Thank you. The next and final is School Board Matters, and I will invite our guest from Tampa to begin. Mr. Rosario, would you like to comment on any matters that you may have? And you can be followed by Dr. Schiff.
Thank you, Mr. Barefoot. I don't have anything significant to report, except I'm just happy to be here at the FSBA conference. It's going to be until Friday, the conference until Friday, rather. And so I'm just excited about it. It'll be the first time that I'll be here during a summer conference, because usually we just make the December conference. So it's good. I do want to say, apart from that, that this morning the board, we all met to begin discussions for our board protocols. And that has been, for me, really a long time coming. I think we pushed through. We had good conversation. We agreed on many items. We disagreed on some, but that's okay. That's all part of working together. But we came to consensus on many things. And I just wanted to thank you, board members, for today. It could have went in a million different directions, but we all worked together to kind of stay focused. I believe that we got at least a quarter of the way through what we are proposing to be protocols for us and for the public. Protocols are not policy. They are just the functioning and the behavior expectations of board members for things like, how we receive communication or give communication with staff, or, run our business meeting. So I just wanted to say thank you to you all for today. I know our time was cut short, but we did quite a few. We came a ways this morning, so thank you all.
Thank you. Dr. Schiff?
I don't have much to add. I think for me, what was most notable about this morning it is, as Dr. Moore mentioned, that we are finally getting to work that should have been done decades ago. So I'm glad this board will take that on. The only other thing in terms of events or happenings was this past week, the district sponsored a fantastic appreciation lunch at American Icon Brewery. Thanks to our sponsors for that. Mrs. Barenborg, you'll know the name, which is escaping me right now.
Paul Jacqueline and Sons.
Yeah, thanks to our sponsors. When it was originally put on our calendar for 3 hours, I was sure that was a mistake. But it wasn't, because Mrs. Maddox had all kinds of things planned for that amount of time. And we actually had a terrific time, and it was really nice to spend some time appreciating and acknowledging our principals and assistant principals, but mostly getting a chance at the end of the year to just all let our hair down a little bit and just hang out and have a little fun with each other. So thank you to all of the principals and assistant principals who attended and who I got to speak with and spend a little time with. Thanks, Mrs. Maddox, for putting that together. Thanks, district staff. Thanks to our sponsors. It was a really fun event and a nice way to end the year. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Jones?
Thank you. After our high school graduations, I was able to attend some drive-throughs. Dodgertown 5th grade was absolutely phenomenal. Fellsmere Kindergarten, I mean, those kids looked great. Even COVID threw us some curveballs. We also came out of the box on some other things, and it was fun. I attended the attendance committee, one of our early warning indicators, Ms. Dampierre and Dr. Packard and Dr. McMahon. And when we talk about early warning indicators, attendance is huge, because if you're not there, you're not getting the instruction. So I'm looking forward to being a bystander on that. As far as our responsibilities, I have attended the Value Adjustment Board with the county, and that really, really has been a great learning experience, and hope to continue there. The Fellsmere City Council, we've been doing those meetings on Zoom, but again, just to know what the communities are thinking.
Zoning and planning. You're not on the city council for.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm a Zoom member, and I think I am. And then the Economic Development Council, that was really, really interesting on a lot of community members, and again, just looking to see how it affects us, the school board and our school district. The initiatives this morning, very, very, very refreshing. Everything works toward our strategic plan, and just a few of the highlights: the academics with the algebra, 90% by 9th grade. We've got to do that. I think that's wonderful. The really positive recruiting we're doing in HR now, the after-school programs that are bringing it together to see what areas we can all work on together, the finance and getting it to the principals, deciding their budget. And we used to do that, Mr. Fagan, and it was good. It was a really good ownership. And I think we all talked about the inclusion with the playgrounds, and I think about that with our schools, and hopefully we can talk about that within our community and see where we can go with that. But I want to say again, thank you to all staff members, district support, administrators, for a job well done this year. If you went to our schools and went into classrooms, we weren't stopping with COVID and masks. We were moving forward, and I know with these new initiatives, Dr. Moore, you might have a normal year. We're hoping. And I can't wait to see where we go. Thank you.
Mrs. Barenborg?
Sure. STEAM Venture this morning was fun. Sorry that I didn't get to visit all the schools I wanted to, but I was pulled into our board meeting this morning, so Apologize to the two schools I didn't get to see, but I was really encouraged by what I saw. It was a lot of fun. It was really encouraging to see, I guess encouraging isn't the word. It was interesting to see community leaders coming to us and attempting to do some of the things. That's all I'll say. Indian River virtual graduation was wonderful. Even though they only had 2 graduates and 1 in attendance, they made it important and special for that child. So I think that was wonderful that that was done that way. Dodgertown graduation was wonderful, one of my schools, so I really appreciated going there. And then I sit on Indian River County Planning and Zoning. That's
Are you on it?
I am on it. You're on Fellsmere's County Planning and Zoning. Not county. You're on Fellsmere's Planning and Zoning. I'm on Indian Rivers. 2 affordable housing projects have been talked about and approved now and are moving forward. And I asked, because one of them was specifically designed for, because it's going to be near the hospital, was designed for medical staff. And I asked, hello, can we have, school employees also try to live there? Because this is affordable housing right on 37th and 11th. I think it's a new road they're building. You'll see it through the hospital area. They're going to build a new road. It's going to be where the entrance of the ambulances are, that it's going to extend north. So that is affordable housing that our teachers and their employees can look into. So I thought that was quite interesting. And then the other one is out west of town, but there are more scheduled. So, and it's busy, let me tell you. Sometimes planning and zoning, they cancel meeting. Lately, it's every other week or every week. So I'm going to another one this Thursday. And then the end of the year celebration for the administration was wonderful, and I was going to publicly thank Paul Jacquin and Sons, who I know personally. And it's really nice to see people in the community wanting to step forward and say, what can I do to help? And that was a wonderful thing that they did to help. I got to say another thing just because I want to say it, and he probably doesn't want me to say it, but thank you to Mike Jacquin for stroking a nice check for a boy that deserved it, Matthew. And it's nice when community members listen for those pleas for help for kids that really, really need it and deserve it, so I appreciate that. Looking forward to attend tomorrow, pre-Ignite at Sebastian River High School. Interested because thank you for listening to me today and giving us an invitation right away. I think school board members need to be aware of the presentations that are being done for our administrators and our teachers. Not everyone, but I think when it concerns professional development and things that community members are concerned about, we need to be listening to it for ourselves. So I'm excited about going to that tomorrow. Thank you.
All right, well, I don't have really anything to add other than to say I'm sure I speak for everyone. I'm delighted that the school year is finally over. But thank you to all the teachers, principals, staff, custodians, and the like that really did a hell of a job getting us through a very, very challenging. And I think if you look at the bright side, challenges are really a code word for opportunity. The opportunities that were presented were a lot of people have learned how to be effectively teaching virtually. And there's going to come a point in time when there's elective courses that could be offered in the evening for young people. And I think that the teachers have learned how to navigate the various platforms that deliver content. That might be something, certainly the college community has learned how to do that. They've been doing it for a long time, but I think this is brand new all over the country. Hopefully that we'll be able to put those skills that have been developed to work in the future. But it's been a great year, and I think that at the lunch last week for principals and assistant principals, some of the stories, Ms. Maddox asked each of the principals to bring a story that was memorable, most of which are repeatable, a couple of which not so much. But it was hilarious, actually, to listen, and everybody had a great time. And, of course, there was no alcohol served, so there was no exaggerations. I mean, it was just good, clean fun, but it was a lot of fun. And I'm glad to see, sometimes, you know, I think we all tend to take ourselves too seriously. And in the year that we've had, maybe it's been hard to have some fun. A lot depends on how you define fun, I guess. But I'm looking forward to a summer of relaxation to the extent that is possible. And next year, besides continuing on the goals that are laid out in the strategic plan, let's have some fun along the way.
Absolutely.
And Dr. Moore, do you have any closing words of wisdom?
No, just, we'll have the opportunity to present Thursday at the state conference. Ms. Rosario and Dr. Schiff are in, so looking forward to sharing with other superintendents and board members how we have engaged our student voice in our decision-making process through the superintendent's another council, the advisory council, that we have Superintendent's Student Advisory Council. So just an opportunity to share some of the work that we are doing. And just in terms of reflecting and closing out the school year, just continue to be encouraged about the progress that we have made. And as I said this morning, there are just a great group of individuals who are leading our schools, teaching in our classrooms, and district staff who stand behind them, preparing, paving the way to ensure that we're providing the resources, the maps to ensure that every student has the opportunity to be successful. So where we are, looking 15 months and being the superintendent with basically 13 months under a pandemic, just so proud of how we have pushed through, haven't allowed the pandemic to get the better of us, but continue to work towards a strategic plan that most people said, well, that's just too aggressive. But each and every single day continue to be encouraged that we're going to be able to hit those targets. So looking forward to data coming back this particular school year. I think as you'll see in Pre-Ignite, the level of focus and strategy that has been put into what is taking place over the summer. Our principals are going to engage in, I want to say, 56 hours of development during the month of June, and that's just June and July, and that's just a reflection of we know if you got to educate and grow ourselves in order to be world class. So I'm just very, very encouraged by who is here, their effort and their desire to be in service of our community and children.
All right, well, that does it, everybody. Meeting adjourned at 8:16.